welcome for this session, Campus with Anthony. So we are Thursday, so it's time to share a moment with you with the stream, modular component, modular applications, and modularity and components. So, but today it's a bit different. I wanted to share something different with you and maybe having, well, not something very, very technical. So, yeah, let's say we can expect to have more discussions and more funny things, so we can discover new things and we can expect to learn things, also to talk about JHipster, the community, the project, what are the different expectation for the future, and probably what are them. So I know Alessandra is here, so hi Alessandra. I just turned on my no, not hi. I just turned on the chat on the let me just change my screen here. Yeah, so now you can we can all see the chat. That is a good opportunity to, so feel free to send your message. I think it's very interesting for this kind of live to have an open discussion and to talk about that. So I was thinking, so because first we need to understand, and let me just, it's coffee time, so I would like to enjoy coffee with you first. Italian coffee. No, I think it's Mexican. Anyway, well, I was thinking about, we did a great community survey with Gypster, that is an open source project for which I'm a co-team member, so I'm also a contributor, and also that Nintendo is a sponsor. And we also know that we do think that Gypster people that can create components easily by using the tools can also them so anyone to have a coffee. I think you have great coffee in India, by the way. Probably better than we in France. So I'm not sure we have coffee in France. So you probably have better coffee than you can access to have better coffee than I have. I mean, locally. And yeah, I was thinking about, I want to create some content to share the community result with the company, but we already have a blog post. I know that also Matt Rebel syndicated on their blog, so it doesn't make sense to syndicate it again, to create a new blog post, another blog post that will talk about the same thing that the official one. Maybe we should, and I was thinking, we should try something different, and maybe we can try to connect the community and talk and share a good moment to understand the different results. Because I need to be totally honest, when I saw some results, I was a bit surprised. And I would say, probably that the project is not exactly, or probably that the expectation of the community is not exactly what I was thinking. It's a bit different, or I was not sure that people were attracted by this kind of technologies or use this one a lot. And I remember that when the first time when I met Julian Dubois, that is basically the creator of Gypster, we had a lot of discussion about, but we don't really know what people do with what people does. I'm still learning English. What people does with Gypster. It's also that means it's hard to track every project. It's hard to understand why people are using it, what are the best feature, or what are the feature they are love to, why or what they want to be improved, and etc. And what are the different use cases. because that's true that most of the time people don't share feedback with the communities, probably because we don't feel like we can, that sharing something or sharing our experience could be interesting for a community. We probably don't think about that. We just try to make our project, our own project, and then try to follow the project. And maybe we can also contribute, by the way. That's true. People also contribute. But I think a way to contribute is also to share what are the project that you are doing with the tool. What kind, for example, for Gypsum, it could be what kind of project are you generating? What are the complexity? Is this something for learning? Is this something for production ready, or application for production? So something very complex or very simple, and etc. So I know also that it's hard sometimes to talk about that because we probably don't know, we cool it's also a possibility that you are not allowed to talk about what your company is doing with a tool because it's sensitive data. But for some reason, and sometimes it is exactly what I did in the past with Carrefour, that is a big company, a big salt company, because I was working there and for also Chipster, we have using Chipster, and they did a lot of great things. And I said, I told them, but what you are doing is really great, and I'm pretty sure that people want to learn about that, want to have some feedback, want to understand, or we can leverage a tool like Chipster, and maybe that you can also have some good feedback too, and to understand, or you can improve the way you are working with, or maybe you can understand from the other people what they exactly are doing. So if you want to learn more about this use case, I mean, using Gypster with we what we did with Gypster at Carrefour, so you can find it, you can find my video on YouTube, so on my own channel. But anyway, we're not talking about that today, but it was just an example on, yeah, share something with the community. It's better than not sharing everything, and everything is valuable. So if you have something to share, feel free to create a blog post, videos, or even sometimes just a Twitter thread, and so you can tag the official account or some, I mean, icon from the for core team members. So for example, like me, so we can easily uh, share then the content, and it helps us to have a better understanding of the project. So I wanted to say that for the introduction, but you also know that previously in the years, I think even last year, we announced that we created a Gypsum Tech Board. That the goal is to advise the project, to give some advice, and to generate some leads, to also help the project to be more connected with the reality, the market, and what can people expect the project, what the project will be in the future. So it's an interesting exercise, because it's good to have even external people, external point of view. I mean, people that don't necessarily use Gypster but understand what is it and why it's valuable, and can help us to improve it, or to continue, or on what on maintaining some features or something like this. So let me share my screen, so I can start by sharing my screen. So I will turn on the chat for the moment if there is any discussion, so I can turn it on. But what is it interesting there is, and this is not I would like to start with, is so the technology advisory board, so is the Gypsum Tech board, is basically a board that helped the project to serve the community. And in this board we can find, so we have Julian, we have Deepu, that are if you already know the Gypsum community, you probably already know them, so Julian Dipu and Matt, but we also have Paul from Nintendo and Alina Yurenko from Oracle. So we made some meetings in which we decide to have a better visibility on what the community is expected from us and from the project. And so Alina pushed the idea and suggest us to create a survey. So I think this is something she already did before for Oracle, for GraalVM community, because she's a developer advocate at Oracle and she's working for the GraalVM community. And so, using her own experience, we were able to create a survey to gather the different ideas and different use cases, and to try to find or try to understand how the project is used right now. So this is what we will try to understand today and try to read together. But first, coffee. So let me just present you Alina, because she did a really great job there. I think this is exactly what we want, what we needed. I mean, for the project. So having this survey, something we can easily catch up, and then we need to to have a better understanding and etc. So it helped us a lot, and I would like to thanks her, and I also would like to give her all my support, because she's from Ukraine, and we already know we all know that what happened in Ukraine is very annoying. It's I don't know. I'm so sorry because I can't tell it in English. It's a bit hard for me, but you know that I just want to say, Alina, I will send all my love to her, because all my support, because of what happening for her and for her family, and probably people that all the people live there in Ukraine. So I just wanted to say that, and I would like to thanks Alina to did this great job, and that helped us a lot in our community job and in our project. That is very, very interesting. So then, even so she's created the let me just so she created the project, but also she just written the community server result. That is a blog post available in Dev2, so you can access it here. So let me share it with you. And if you access it, you can discover all the results. So basically, this is something I would like to do with you right now. So let's start it. So the first section was, how do you use Gypster? And this is something we can nearly knows with the Gypster stats. So if I take that, so you can find it on stat.gypster.tech. You can have access to Gibson Statistics. That is basically a public page on the stat.gypster.tech website, and so you can learn them from the different data we have, so the different statistic we have. So for example, if I take, so in the last 24, let's say in the last month, so we can have access to the different choices people made, for example, for the front-end framework, or for between Maven and Gradle. So we need to understand that all the data that are present here have been collected through the CLI or through the Gypter online website. So people allow us to collect the data, and so then we can generate graphics to understand what happened here, if what are the different usages and what the choice people are making when they are using Gypster. So for example, we can see that, yeah, here, yeah, for example here, so let me check something. So basically, their example is 25 for Angular, while 3 for React, and 1 for Vue. And we can see that a lot of people don't choose any front-end framework. So I guess just only generate macro frontends, or even well, they skip the front-end part. So this is probably something. And yeah, and even, yeah, we can see that with this graphic, that is probably better to have, a global view, more I don't know if it's in English, more global, is global view, or tell me if global view is correct. So yeah, you can see that 90% of the generated project are generated without any front end. So you can have access to that, but there is some limitation, because people need to allow us to collect the data. So if you choose to not send the data to the Gypster website, that will mean we will not have access to it. So we can't know exactly what happened. And also, the fact is, here, we don't really know if the data are coming from continuous integration pipelines, or really usages, or some people that just want to test Gypster or to test some combination, or if we are talking about a real project. So it's a bit different, because it's a bit hard to understand, because we don't really know what happened, and we can't really know exactly if all these things are accurate or not. I think they are, but just that we can't really understand if it represents something real, a real use case, or let's say real world use case, or is just, like mixing of real use case and testing and continuous integration pipelines that could generate application using Chipster to, I don't know, run test or test some deployment or something like this. Anyway, so if you want to have access to that, so let me, yeah, I already share it with you, but I think there is some trouble with Facebook. So let me share it on Facebook again. No, it seems I can't. Let me try again. Okay, it seems I can't. I don't know what happened with Facebook. So if people on Facebook, tell me if you receive the URL, because it seems that you, well, I'm using Restream, so I can send links to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, but it seems that sometimes Facebook is failing, so people on Facebook don't receive the message. Anyway, if you want to access it, it's quite simple. You need to go on start.gypster.tech, and so you can access directly here by choosing the Gypster Statistics, and you don't need to register to have access to this page. So it's free for all. Okay, so from that we can understand that the result here could be a bit different, because I suppose that people that answer, so that make the effort to answer a survey, did it for good reasons. And it's a bit different that collecting data across the world, across different users. So here, we can expect to have something more close to the real use cases that people have using Gypster. So the first question is, which client-side framework do you use with Gypster? And the first one comes at first place is Angular. Well, and even it's quite interesting, because we can see that Node is the fourth, that represents something like 6%. While if we check these statistics, I think we saw that it's 90%. Yeah, for the let's say even for the last year. Let's take for the last year. So we will have a lot of data, so we can have something Yeah, for the last year is something like 66%. So that means people that answer the survey probably are not exactly the same, or are not doing the same thing that the statistics. The statistics are a bit different here. But once again, we can easily understand that because it's different from um, collecting data and answer to a survey that should represent real use cases. So, as I said, we have Angular at the first place. And to be honest, I'm not very surprised about that because first, we need also to understand that on how Gypster works. For each question, unless you have multiple, I think unless you when you have multiple choices to make, you always have a default values. So if you want to quickly generate something, you just need to click, you can click and enter and say, okay, let me, or I think even you have a default option to take all the default, to generate something with all the default options. And if you want to select something quickly or to generate something quickly, probably that you will choose the default values. So that's mean it helps Angular, that is, I think, the default values for generated monolith with Gypster, to be the first. It could be one answer. Then I think also that Angular, it's, like the first framework that have been the first, let's say differently, the first yeah, the first JavaScript framework, we can say that. I mean, in the history, so it came the first. I mean, before React and Vue, and is still a really great choice to develop your application. So probably that people that have studied with Angular still use it right now, especially in companies, because I think companies don't want to, sometimes don't feel comfortable by changing some framework when one works. And we can't say that Angular is not working. I think Angular is working great to create your components, your applications. So that's it's a good reason for people to not change that and say, yeah, we have Angular expert. We are okay with. I mean, we are comfortable by using Angular for all our projects, so we don't want to change that. That doesn't mean that React is less interesting, or it doesn't compete. It does compete. And by the way, we can see that 30%, even 35% of people are choosing React. That's mean that it's quite important. So I think if you really want to create something that match with your needs, you will select exactly the option that you want to use. So if you could be probably Vue or React and etc. So the thing is, if you want to go quickly, you will select Angular. And also Angular, it's quite strong in the framework, in the JavaScript ecosystem. But Angular and both are also great. I just wondering, it is not something I didn't check that. I was just wondering if what are the different choices that people make outside Gypster? I mean, let me check let me change the music. Maybe we can, yeah, let's put something different. Okay, I'm just wondering, and if anybody of you knows that is what are, I mean, in the JavaScript market, what are people what would like to choose between Angular? What are the most used framework? I guess. I mean, so I should check that, and maybe we can compare that with a Gypster. And let's say, what is the most used framework, JavaScript. No, not REST, React. The question is not to find the best, but the popularity. Yeah, popularity is. I don't know what is a website, by the way. Yeah, Stack Overflow trend. So it could be. Yeah, we can see that. Question that month. Oh, the survey from Stack Overflow. So it's a good option for us. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you very much. I'm just so for example, it's interesting to see that in terms of popularity, in 2021, React was the first, while Angular was the second, and by 22%. So that means what we have here doesn't represent the popularity. So probably that also people make choice not because of I want to have the most popular tool, but also it is I want the tool that match with my requirements. That's it probably could be a bit different. So what does dreaded mean? Oh no, it's AngularJS. Dreaded could be maybe not used anymore. Yeah. I'm okay. So people don't want to use it because they are afraid of that. Oh yeah. Okay, good. Anyway, we are not here to compare all the front-end framework things, but it's still interesting to try to understand if the Gypster community is matching the other use cases. I mean, outside Gypster, it seems that it doesn't, because people will probably choose better. Will probably choose React instead of Angular, but once again, it's not about popularity. Is what you are using effectively in your application. So what kind? So let's move to the second question. So what kind of application do you create with Gypster? And interesting kind of application. So basically, people generate mostly monolith for 78%. So it's quite important. I think we have multiple choice here. So that means, even, and probably also even for the previous question, I'm not sure. But this one is, that's true. That you can choose to generate monolith or SPA, let's say monolith application. And you can also, in the same company or the same team, you can also have microservices. So it's not, or let's say server only or client only application. So it's not one solution versus another one. It's everything can be used for different needs, and to have a complete solution that will work with all our business needs. So this is why, but I'm not very surprised that monolith is the first solution, also because it's the default values. And probably that when you want to start something very quickly, you probably want to have a monolith application that is quite easy to, it's easier to develop, because you have everything under the same, you can have everything under the same repository, the same code. And you can, when you start it, you start both the front end and the back end. Even if you mostly want to code something in the back end, you can use the front end to access it easily. So for example, if you mostly want to develop something with entities and define business rules, and I don't know, to develop some features, you can still use the front end for testing, or even if it not the final, it will be not the final way to access the backend. You can still keep the front end to still have a good experience. I mean, developer experience or QE experience. So to help them to test easily the content, your back or your backend features. So this is probably also why we can see that monolith is the first choice. But I'm very surprised that microservices comes well, I'm not very surprised that it comes to second, but I'm surprised that it represents 60% of the answers. That it's not so far away from monolith. That means people use microservices or generate or code with microservices a lot. That is an interesting point, because in the same times we can see that we don't have a lot of gateway. So we only have 30%. It's still important anyway, but 30% of gateway compared to 60% of microservice, that means people probably generate microservices, but not always using the gateway provided by Gypster. That also means they are using something different. And it will be very interesting. And unfortunately, we don't have the data here, but I would like to know if you generate microservices using Gypster, what kind of solution you are using to deploy them. Maybe on Kubernetes. Probably it's because Kubernetes is very popular right now, I think, and it's a strong choice when you want to deploy microservices on the cloud, I guess, but I'm not sure about that. So if you have an idea, if you have an idea, just type it on the chat. But I'm not totally sure about that. But anyway, it's very interesting to see that microservices is very high on the top, and even we can see that we have the server only option. That is more an advanced option, by the way. Is if you want to generate a server only option, you need to select none it's a bit different now. You need to select none in the framework, in the front end choices. But before that, you needed to apply a specific flag. So it was more an advanced use case, but now it's probably more a common use case. But the thing is, I'm pretty sure that server only is not so different from microservices. The only difference you can find between both is if you try to generate a microservice, you will also embed and generate all the configuration that will make it work with the gateway. If you generate a gateway with Gypster 2, but if you generate a server only, you will have a backend. So if you implement a unique business, so something very well defined in business way, your server only application could be a microservice. It's just not so far, it's not different, just a way to what your application is doing and what you are using with it. So if you create something very simple that contains only one business use case, or that's match with a business capability in the backend, your server only is probably also a microservice, and you can deploy it on Kubernetes to make it work with all your different server only application. And then we can see that we have both the client only and micro frontends that are present. Well, micro frontends, it's something very young in the Gypster project. So it makes sense that it doesn't represent a lot of use cases. Also because maybe people are not agree. Don't know that you can generate micro frontend using Gypster. Probably it's also that. I feel that micro frontends comes to be quite popular right now because I think a lot of developers have already used them. But if you want to study with micro frontends, probably that you will not first think about using Gypster, and it's also a reason why it doesn't represent a lot of choices here. But you should, at least you should try. So we should try, and then by the way, we can do it in stream, in the next stream. I'm not sure the next one, but in the next 2-3 streams. So it could be try to generate macro front end using Gypster and try to understand exactly how it works. What are the different solutions to generate some composable application. I'm noting that, so it could be very interesting. Anyway, then let's move to the next question. So outside Java Spring Boot, so how many questions we have? So we are the third. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7. So okay. So we did the half of our journey. What kind of application? So we are here and we still have time. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I don't want to talk too much. I'm talking too much, so I'm talking, and I don't want to, but we still have time. That's good. So outside Java and Spring Boot, do you use other languages or frameworks supported by Chipster? So that is very interesting, especially for Blueprint. So if you don't know exactly what a Blueprint is, let me introduce it to you. So you know that when you generate a project with Gypster, so you have the choice for the front end, but you don't have the choice for the technology used in the backend. So I mean, you can add options, you can add I don't know, you can select different databases and etc. But the main framework uses Spring Boot, and the main language is Java. So if you want to use another solution, another framework, and still use Gypster, you need to use a blueprint. And we have some blueprints developed by the community using different technologies. So the idea of a blueprint is to be able to extend an existing Gypster version to modify the behavior to generate a different different application. So basically, when you run Gypster using the Quarkus blueprint, you will not use the backend. Let's say we call that the server part of Gypster. So we still use the front end one. We still use, I don't know if, there is a lot of sub generator, but for the server part, that's basically create the Spring Boot code. You will not use it anymore, and instead of that, you are using the blueprint, so that implement a new version of the server. So if you want to use Quarkus, you need to use, among Gypster, you need to use the Quarkus blueprint, and then you will have a generated Quarkus application instead of a Spring Boot one. So it's interesting to understand what people are using with that, and if they are using it a lot or not. And this is why I'm very grateful to see that question, because also it's very important to understand that. So we can see that the first question, so the first answer, is no, but I'm interested in them. So basically, most of the people don't use any backend solution, any different blueprint solution to implement new technologies. Yeah, I'm talking about backend, but we also have solution for front end, such as Svelte. Is React Native? I'm not sure. Flutter, I think. Yeah. Anyway, we have solutions. So the thing is, 37% of people could be interested in using Gypster. That means we can extend the Gypster experience from Spring Boot to Node.js, Quarkus, Kotlin, Ionic, React Native, Micronaut, even .NET. That is surprising because we have 7% of the people of the answer that is saying we are using the .NET version of Gypster. It's very interesting when you know that Gypster is really linked or tied, really, yeah, have a big link, an important link with the Java community and the Java ecosystem and all the frameworks that come with. So that means even outside Java applications and Java community, Gypster works. That is still an interesting point of view. So, well, from all this, I think that if we check all the answers, we can see that all of them are quite close. So yeah, of course, we have less .NET that Node.js answers, or less .NET that Quarkus or Kotlin. But finally, when you check everything, you can see that we don't have, even if Node.js is still it's the most used. Well, people answer for the most for Node.js, but the difference is not so important. I mean, so for example, you have only 6 answers, 6 more answers for Node than Kotlin, while it's 8 between Node and Quarkus. So it's it's very close from Node, Kotlin, Quarkus, and probably the top 3. But I'm not so surprising because I think we already know that Kotlin is quite popular. It's a good solution. It's a good language to run JVM application. So I think people love Kotlin because it's probably also a good opportunity to change the way we are creating or we are coding applications. So I mean, especially for people that are using Java for a while and they want to do the things a bit differently. So this is why it's still interesting to have this kind of implementation. So the thing is, Node.js is the first, and that means the first answer is not a Java framework. So that is also interesting because that means if people want to have something different, they probably want to use not a Java framework. And it makes sense because if you want, I mean, between Quarkus, Kotlin, and even Micronaut, you probably, and Spring Boot, I mean, you probably, if you want, you will not be, I mean, how can I say that? Yeah, if you are very comfortable with Spring Boot, you will not properly take a look to these things unless you have specific needs. So for example, if you want to create native application using a Java framework, you will probably take a look to Quarkus or Micronaut. But if you want to do let's say a classic application, because Spring Boot is the default values and most of the people are using Spring Boot, maybe that they will keep using Spring Boot there. So it's also interesting. So this is why it's interesting to see that Node.js is still the first, is the first, because that means people are using other languages to have a different experience or to use a different language. So, and I think even now Node is very interesting to create some backend microservice application. So you can still you can still compete and be powerful using Node and a Java application in your ecosystem. For example, running on Kubernetes and using all the containers. So it's a good solution, I think. So that's why I'm not so surprising about that. It's just that yeah, .NET it's always funny to see that we have .NET. That is very, I mean, we can understand that Node is JavaScript, but JavaScript is not so far away from Java. I mean, I think a lot of people that have already used Java also have used JavaScript in their career, in the not necessarily for the same purposes, but it also they are still they could be compatible by using JavaScript. For example, it's my case. So I mean, I created application using Java and JavaScript, and I did all these things for a while, for 10 years, and even probably more. And if tomorrow somebody tell me, hey, we want to use Node for our application and we want you to contribute, are you okay to do it with JavaScript? I mean, for a backend, I would say, yeah. It I don't see any reason to use Node for making a JavaScript backend. But if they ask me the same for .NET, I will say, it's a very different environment. It's a very different language. And I feel like I will jump into a different world. So that's why it's very interesting to see that .NET is still present here. And 7% is still huge. I mean, okay, so let's move to the next question. So what is one thing you love about Gypster? So probably the most interesting, or one of the most interesting question, and so the answers. So this was an open question. So we ask people what they love about, and but we don't suggest some answers. And yeah, probably it's quite hard to analyze all the answers, but it's good to have the most popular answers, because we can also understand why people basically use Chipster. So it's easy for bootstrapping of web application. Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, this is the first idea behind Gypster, is we don't want to do or redo the same thing again every time. So we want to easily start by generating an application and coding and be concentrating to be focused on the business issues. Use of best practices and standards. So I think it comes with the same first idea, is it's easy to bootstrap application, but we don't only do it simply, we also do it because of we want to have a very high level of quality. So it's very important to have a high level of quality and to make it easily to be done, to be generated. So it's, by the way, it's always, and this statement is something is always hard to reach. I mean, for a contributor point of view, because that means when you implement a new feature, when you code a new feature, you want to add something in Gypster, you need to ask yourself, is what I am doing is the best way to do it? So if I'm not an expert, and even probably an expert sometimes could be not sure about that, so that means we always need to discuss about the way we are implementing solution, because we need to ensure that we are doing it in the best way, and we can always be sure of that. It's quite hard. So it's a trend we are trying to follow, but sometimes we probably could fail. So that means also, this is why it's interesting to work with a community, because if we can improve the way we are using a framework, a library, or any standard on the web, we should do it together. We don't have all the answers. Okay, so eliminating routing work and getting to production fast. So yeah, agree. So I mean, if I'm using Gypster, I can easily push my application in production. Yeah, the application is production ready and cloud ready. So that means whatever I'm using in the different, whatever the solution I'm using to run my application, I will probably do it easily using Chipster. So enabling unique and integration test. So yeah, it's also one of the, it's related to best practices, is if you had a new feature, you need to add the test that come with. Um, that's true that Gypsum provide a lot of and a good test coverage. Not perfect. I think it's not perfect because uh, it's quite hard also to cover all the different combination, the matrix of the solution matrix. So that means what happen if you select this answer and this one and this one, and we can't. It's quite hard sometimes to cover everything. So that's why it's probably not perfect. But if you start with a good coverage in your application, you can still improve it. And it's a good base to start and to continue the good practices. So, I mean, if you generate an application and have, I know, let's say 90% of code coverage with with solid tests, you probably want to still being at 80%, even if you had new features, if you have new code. Okay, so using the latest technologies and open source stack, yeah, everything is open source. So we provide only, I think, only open source solution. Flexibility and customization out of the box. And this is why, yeah, this is a good sentence, a good reason, I think. Well, the thing is, many times I had some discussion with people that didn't know what Gypster is, and the first question was, but if I want to develop my own application, should I, if I use Gypster, should I always use Gypster? Can I don't know, switch to something, not to something different, but can I do something by myself? And the good point is you can choose to use Gypster for starting your application. You can choose to keep relying on it. So, I mean, when you have a new version of Gypster, you just upgrade it, and then you can generate your application again, and you can leverage from the new features. But if you want to do something very different, I mean, just generating something, a solid base, as I said before, if you want to generate that and then use it for building your own application, and you don't want to follow what Gypster provide anymore, you can do it. We are not vendors, so we don't sell anything. So if you want to do it by own, you can do it. We only generate things, and we provide. That's true that we provide some libraries. Yeah, so you probably have linked to some Gypster libraries, but we do that to avoid to generate everything. So we try to keep a good balance between what is generated and what is provided through libraries. Continue supporting communities. Yeah, I would like to thank everybody because we have a really great, a really great community. It's very awesome. Okay, what can be improved? We'll also add to, yeah. So we can improve it. My user said there is no such things. Other point that's improving some documentation, the web process, entity update, and adding more tutorials in particular for various cloud platform would be great. Okay. The thing is, that's true. That documentation is something technical people don't want to do. I mean, most of the time, we enjoy to code something, but we don't love so much to documentate that, or we do it, but then when it comes to update the documentation, it's hard to find people agree or have time to do that. So, I mean, when you have the choice and you need to choose between coding something or documentate something, I think people mostly want to code something and not write some documentation. This is not a good point anyway. I think documentation is as valuable as code is. That means if you feel that we need to add some documentation on the Gypster website, and if you agree, if you are willing to do it, you can do it easily. So the documentation is really easy to handle because we only do it using a Markdown file. So you can create your own documentation. You can create a new pull request, and then we can decide to add it, or we can review it and then add it directly on the website. But that's true that uh, all these things could be improved because documentation is, well, it's not where technical people are competing the most. So I need to be honest, but it's not a good point. It could be probably the first things. I mean, when we release a new feature, we should do it with the documentation that comes with every time. Anyway, even for something very simple, because most of the time it's quite hard to exactly understand what a feature is doing and what we can expect from a new version, or what are the changes and why the behavior is what the one, this one, and etc. Anyway, but it's a good point. So the upgrade process, the second point is, oh yeah, we can improve the upgrade process, but I remember that we also had a Gypster subgenerator that helps people to upgrade their project, the generated project. But the thing is, oh, it's quite hard to maintain because once you have modified the files, that's mean the generator could know that this file has been modified, so you need to merge something or to change something, and it's very hard to handle all the cases. So this is why also people uh, have found some solution to make the upgrade process easier by, for example, using the side-by-side side-by-side, how can I say that, side-by-side process or framework is, when you generate a project using Gypster, if you are using side-by-side, you don't change the content from the generated file, but you extend it and you implement your own code into the extended file. So when you upgrade and when you generate your application again, you will not change your own file, but you will change the file generated by Gypster. And then if you need, you can upgrade your code from your file. To be honest, I've never tested it in a real world use case, but I feel that if I need to code a complex application using Gypster, probably I will give a try to this way of work. So then we have entity update. So I think it's something close to the upgrade process. So when you need to add a new field to the entity, and probably if you already have made some modification, you can have some conflict and etc. So I don't feel that update an entity is quite hard. So I don't know exactly what people want to have. What is the idea behind that? Is that because we are generating the entity again, or I mean the file again, or it's just because it's the CLI that is not clear or easy to use to generate or to update a new entity or a given entity. Okay, so adding more tutorials. So I think tutorials in documentation is probably the same topics. We need to add documentation, but also to add some tutorials. This is why also this is something we're trying to do at Nintendo by supporting the Gypster community, is sometimes creating some tutorial. So you can find them under our blog. That's you can provide. You can access it on ntendo.com on news and blog, and so you can find there sometimes I'm I'm writing some Gypster blog post. So, for example, this one where Gypster what's under the hood, and we probably have other um, yeah blog post there. So anyway, we also have a lot of great blog posts if you want to know about, let's say, for example, GitHub, modularity, and yeah, if you want also to start with using Nintendo to compose your application using components and etc. But the thing is, we try to do the job by creating some content, and especially there could be tutorials or not documentation, but maybe tutorials or use cases. So if you want us to create more things like this, if you're interested to have this kind of content, feel free to tell us, because once again, if we have a better view of what people need, we will be able to create this content. Okay, in particular for various cloud platforms will be great. Okay. So let's move to the quality. So I'm very happy to see that. So 78% of the users rated the quality between 8 and 10. So that means most of people, the majority, most of the people consider that the code generated by Gypster is really have really high quality, and I'm glad to see that, because I know that it's really hard sometimes to handle everything. It's not about only develop something or code something. It's about make it great for the users. So you can try, and we all have our own idea of what a good code is. So if we can say that if people consider that what Gypster it's generated is good, that means that we are connected to the community. So even if we choose, if we select from 7 to 10, it will be something like, let me 90%. So that's good. So Gypster roadmaps. So I think this is something interesting, and probably the main reason also why we did this survey is why people want to use, well, why people want to have in the feature version of Gypster. So what do you expect from the project to still compete in the Java environment or JavaScript environment, to help you to still generate great project? Is so equal app to define the roadmap. So most of the time we selected or we defined the roadmap because of our own ideas. So I want to, or I discover new things, or new things is becoming popular. So we should add it on Gypsum. So let's do it. But we have no idea that if this feature is should be a top priority for us because it's matching with the community needs. So let's say differently. If we ask the community to tell us what are the top priority, or what the top priority should be, we can have a better, we can produce better version of Gypster, I think. Okay, so the different answers are, so the first one is macro fontaine. So macro fontaines are what people would like to see in Gypster. I'm a bit surprised because I think we already have macro fontaine using Gypster. So I don't know exactly if it's because people, oh, excuse me, I don't know if exactly because people didn't know that you can generate macro fontaine using Gypster, or maybe because the current implementation of macro fontaines are not quite are not well enough, or defining, or not good enough, I mean. So I don't really understand this answer. This is why maybe I'm just wondering if, well, people want to have micro front ends, but did they know that we already provide a way to do that, or do they want something different when they are thinking about micro front end, something more complete? So, for example, if you are using the Nintendo blueprint, so the version of Gypster provided by Nintendo, you can generate macro frontends alongside your entities and deploy them into the Nintendo platform easily. So it's quite simple. So we basically generate macro frontends, React macro frontends alongside your entities. So this is something really useful when you are using Nintendo. Probably not something people want if you want to generate. I don't know. Well, I would like to know. So if people want to share something with us about micro frontends, I will be happy to understand exactly what are the expectation for the micro frontends. Anyway, I'm also studying some, a different a different kind of live session that I name it Code and Chill. So you can spend time with us to code something. And I studied by coding a macro frontend using Angular. So I now will do it. So the next one will be with React, and the last one will be with using Vue. Oh my god, I need some coffee, I think. So I will do it with Angular, React, and Vue. And what I want to do is to compare all the different framework are competing by helping us to create macro frontends. It's not a question of, well, you need to choose one. This one is the best. I just want to compare basically what are the different implementation or what are the different solutions you can use to do it easily. And also because I think I did it with React. I tried it, but no, before my stream, I tried it with Angular a little bit, but I've never did it with Vue. So I wanted to, let's say I'm new at macro frontend. I want to create one with these three framework. So what will be my experience if I do it one time per framework? So anyway, so if you want, one thing, if you want to join us, so basically it will happen probably one stream per week. I don't know exactly when. So last time I do it on Tuesday, but it depends on what are the difference I have to do. So I would like to start the second one next week. But stay tuned. You can follow me on Twitter. So basically, I made some announcement when I do a new stream there. Hi, Pascal. How are you? Happy to see you here. So, okay, macro frontends. Then we have the GraphQL support that is very is very highly chosen because it's a 53%. So half of their answers want to have GraphQL. GraalVM also is very interesting. So GraalVM native. And by the way, well, I don't want to make a lot of announcement, but I will play with GraalVM soon, and I would like to let you know that. But this is something also I have in my pipeline. So something I would like to do with you is just trying to generate native application using GraalVM. That's good. So, well, so far so good. I think all the things we have there, the top topics are very current with what I can see from the different technology trends. If we check what, Alina also told us that, support for TypeScript. I'm a bit that is surprised me because I think all the front ends we created are made in TypeScript. So, and then I think we then have specific things. So, for example, DynamoDB, that is a specific technology. Flyway, that we already have a solution for migrate databases. Redis and Vertex are well, Redis. I think we already have a Redis solution. So I don't know what exactly people want to have. Probably it's another implementation of Redis. And once again, we have Vertex also, but yeah, Vertex is very interesting. But we also have solution that could compete with Vertex. So I don't know. Yeah, Python support is quite funny because once again, it will have another language. I'm not sure if Python is working well with what Chipster is doing. So I don't know people well enough. But if people want to create some Python things, just try it. That's great. So anyway, then move to the next question. If you could improve the getting started experience of Gypsum, what would you change? And we are talking about the Pascal topic. Yeah, the things is one, I think from the start of, I'm not saying from the start of Gypster, but since I joined the Gypster team and I worked with Gypster, the most cons that people raised are or his Gypster is generating too much things. So when you create a new project Gypster, a new Gypster project, when you create a new one, and when you select even the default option, you have a lot of elements, you have a lot of files to deal with. And for example, I did a try with an engineering school in Nantes. So I work with them. I just did a presentation of Chipster there with the beginners, so people that were in the third year of engineer. So well, it's the third year, but it's the first year in this school, and it was too. The complexity was too important for them to be very comfortable by creating a new project using Chipster. And I can understand that because when let's say you are not an expert on Spring Boot, you don't know the front-end framework well, or not enough to understand everything, and you started with a project that contains a lot of TypeScript files, a lot of embedded configurations, and Java file, the service, the REST layer. I don't know. You have also the data layer. So you have a lot of things to understand. The Hibernate configuration also, for example, for the Java part. Well, you have everything. And the thing is, you don't need to understand everything, but if you want to be comfortable, the learning curve is very important because you need to understand, so why I have this file, what this file is made for. Does I need this file? Because I'm not sure about that. Sometimes I can generate some file, but I don't need them for my own purposes. And so people suggest to have a minimalistic version of Gypster. And the thing is, Gypster Lite, well, I'm not sure Gypster Lite is a minimalistic version of Gypster, but it provides another way to use Gypster, something a bit different that will leverage our knowledge from our experience to provide a better developer user experience for Gypster. So when you are using Gypster, this project is already live and you can access it here. So let's try to open it right away like this. And so you can have a good idea of what, let's say, a minimalistic version of Gypster could provide. It's a bit different because instead of instead of choosing all the elements first and then generate everything, you started by generate the base, and then you had the different features you need one by one. So it's working with an API. So basically, you need to call an API to generate your project, but then you can also generate. How can I say that? You can also call another API to generate or to add a feature. So, for example, uh, you start by just generate the application. Then you had Maven. Then you had I don't know. You had Spring. Then you had the cache if you want any solution for caching. Then you had something for manage your database, because probably you don't need a database. So if you need one, you can select a database. Then I don't know, you can add something, and the more you had, the more you will have files. But every time you add a new feature or you add a new option, you know exactly what you are doing, and you can check what are the different files. Another big difference is Gypster Lite is using well, is using what do you say, hexagonal architecture. So is this the good is this a good name in English? Hexagonal architecture. So, hey Nassim, happy to see you here. So the hexagonal architecture also help us, or help the project to manage what belong to the framework part, what is belong to the business part, what is for in what are the different data that should come, or what do you say in English? So you can receive and send. So everything is a different way to define the different files you have, or the different architecture you have inside your application. So instead of having the traditional, REST layer, service layer, or entity or data layer, and something like this, you will have everything is defined by business feature by feature. And then inside that, you have the different primary, secondary. So I'm not an expert of hexagonal architecture, so I don't want to say something wrong. But the thing is, it's you will by using that, we will be able to access some content without modifying existing ones. That could also help to fix the issue we talked before, is what can I do to effectively update my Gypsum project. So yeah, because for the moment everything is linked, is heavily linked into a Gypsum project, because you have layers. So everything is on the same layers at the same levels, and if you want to modify something, you will modify the generated files. But if you use the hexagonal architecture, is a bit different. For example, your entities, you will generate all the entities. You will generate some POJO, so plain old Java object, that will define the main entity, but you will not change anything there. You will extend it to generate your own, or to create your own implementation. So you handle and you manage the implementation, while Gypster manage the, let's say, the core part. So this is why we can see that here. So the architecture is a bit different. So we have generator here. So we have the client, for example, for the everything that's related to the client part. We have also the server for the backend part. So it's quite close to what we have in Gypsum, by the way. But if you check that, you can see that you have Java tools, so now Spring Boot, and even in Spring Boot, you have all the features are isolated from each other. So for example, let's say what I say cache. So you have caffeine, common, or caffeine, we have nothing here, but common. So application, domain, infrastructure. I don't want, well, the goal is not to deep dive into this architecture, because I think it deserves a full time to understand the architecture, and a full stream to understand the Gypsum light. So this is something I would like to do in the future. I have a lot of things. I have a lot of plan, but it's always we are lacking of time. But it's very interesting. So if you can check that everything is um, defined separately, and so because of the architecture, you can improve the way you are managing your application. Yeah, I have something for caffeine that is still in work in progress. To be honest, I've studied something, and it was a good exercise to understand this architecture and the benefits you can have from it. But it's true that I did not spend too many time to finish that. So I need to finish that because I won't like to make it live. And probably that it will not be so far different from what we have. So I don't know. We have cache, for example. So I'm pretty sure that it will not be so far away from what we have. It's just that the implementation is different, and so if I need to do some changes into this implementation, I don't need to change something related to, for example, this one. So once again, we could provide some more flexibility by handling the code like this. Yeah, and I would like to finish with the with the coverage. So if you can see that the coverage is 100%, and we have a good, well, all the numbers are just perfect. So maintainability to A, security to A, and yeah, zero code smells, zero bugs, zero vulnerabilities. So it's, well, I think we already said that, well, the quality in Gypster is very important. So very, very high, something very interesting. But with Gypster Lite, it's even better. And that is very interesting. So once again, it's not really minimalistic. But if you want to create something very simple, you can do it in a better way than Gypster provide actually. And if you want to generate something more complex, you can still do it just like Gypster help you to do, but you need to, do it step by step. So once again, I would like to create another, well, let's say a dedicate live, so some dedicate lives, probably by the way to contribute to Gypsum Lite, but also to use it and to give a try in live. Okay, so people also suggest to have more simple projects, simple GDL project. I think we already have same thinking. I'm reading the Pascal message. So same thinking, composability with Java code with Gypster, like Nintendo did for macro frontend. I will say Nintendo does with any components, and that's basically true. It's a way to compose your code, or let's say to define your code in a more composable way. So instead of mixing all the code in the same place or into different layers, now you can define them into business. I don't know if business unit is the right word, but into business defined places. So it's probably a better use case, or a good use case to understand what modularity and composable things means, even at the code level. While Nintendo help us to manage that at the production and composable level. Okay, so yeah, just about that. So suggesting if to have more sample project samples, we have a lot of samples also in the CI, in the continuous integration. So we use I'm not sure if they are so simple, but I think they are not so complicated. So probably instead of having more project sample, it will be having or provide this sample or make them more understandable for beginners. So Gypster user profile. So it's quite interesting there, because we need also to understand uh, what are our user, or who are our user. I mean, so most of Gypster users define the programming learning experience as experienced, so 50%, or expert, 27%. And I do think that people sometimes underrate their own experience. So probably that we have a lot of experts too. So I mean, if I ask to myself, if people ask me, what is your experience, I'm not sure I will answer expert. That's it's quite hard to define ourselves. Experience, yeah, for sure, because that's true. But when you can tell people you are an expert, it's quite hard to define that. So I mean, once it's not so important, but it's interesting that most of the Gypster user are people that already know well how to code or have a good experience on coding application, while we only 5% of beginners. So that means uh, probably beginner don't want to start with Gypster, or don't use Gypster, or don't feel comfortable with Gypster because of the complexity that come with if you generate a project with, or sample project with. And maybe that Gypster Lite could also attract more beginner people, because they will be able to learn more step by step. Anyway, it just some thoughts, but I can't really analyze that just by with some numbers. So most of them also learn about Gypster from a colleague or via GitHub. So that's interesting, because it's working community. So for the majority of users, 65%, Gypster is an integral part of their workflow. I think that is very important, because as I said before, you can decide to use Gypster for starting quickly, or you can decide to use Gypster during the whole developer or the whole project, or all the project steps. And the thing is, I think most of people are using Gypster during all the workflow. So it's interesting, because that means people see in Gypster a way to code things, or to provide a good way to provide an application. It's not like something you can use and drop away. Even if you can do that, but yeah, you can also leverage it from after having generated your application. So 42% of response company approve Gypster. That means well, I don't think it's quite high. So I'm not saying I'm a bit upset, but I mean, I can understand also that companies are, most of the time, open sources project can fear company, because we don't know exactly who is behind. Yeah, that's true. We are not a company. So we are just, like a community of people that love sharing and coding. So we have great things to share with you. We can code something to help you for nothing, because we don't ask for any money, even if we are very happy to see that the Open Collective account, or the people contribute to the Open Collective account well, so we can also still improve the way we are working, or organize some events. So that's good to have money to make the community alive, and being always on the top. But the thing is, 42% is quite low, I think, because I would like company to trust more open source project. And even this is something I tried to do in the past, is to to try to convince company to let them contribute to open source project, or even to share their own project. I mean, if you check what people are doing in companies, you can see that there is a lot of interesting things that have been done. But most of the time, people don't talk about that. So even they are losing some good feedback or some good improvement, and all the communities are also losing some knowledge about all the tool is used. This is the case for Gypster, I think, but it's also how we can improve it, because we can more understand the needs if we have the data, and probably also that what you are doing right now in your company, the way you are using the tool, the project, is interesting and could help all the other people and could help you. Okay, but yeah, I think it can be improved, but for sure it's not easy. It's like we need to convince people that open source projects are something we not only use but we also contribute, and we have a lot of way to do that. You can create content, you can contribute to documentation, you can create tutorials, you can I don't know, update dependencies, add new features, fix bugs, improve the code coverage, and well, even a lot of things that I don't code yet. Okay, let's move to not the last question, but what time is it? Yeah, we can quickly finish with that. Okay, which programming languages do you regularly use? So not surprise, no surprise here is, well, we have Java the first, and even when I say the first is the first of the first is 96%. Yeah, it's not surprise because, as I said, yeah, Gypsum has been made on Spring Boot, that is a very, 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 very popular framework for Java. So I think a lot of people that are developing in Java and making web application with Java can be easily convinced to use Gypster, because we already implement the best tools on the market to do that, or one of the best tools. And even we can easily add new tools, new frameworks such as Quarkus, Marconaut, I don't know, even Node.js for JavaScript. So you can still use the new ones and being a part in the Java community. For Node.js is a bit different because it's for JavaScript, but JavaScript is 61%, so it's still quite important. So that means also, but I think also probably because people do both. I mean, you can easily. It's not a surprise, It's quite common to see people that code in both Java and JavaScript. Well, this is from my own experience, of course. But also, if you are still only using JavaScript, you can do it very in a comfortable way by using Gypster. The things is very interesting is, for example, for Python, because that's 20%. This is the third. The third answer is Python. It's surprising me, because that means I don't see any how people can develop most of the time using Python and using Gypster. So maybe they are using it for their own purposes, or maybe I don't know exactly. So I'm very curious to understand that, and why it's coming to be the third language in this stuff. So, for example, just ahead from Kotlin. So Kotlin I can understand, because people are using Kotlin, but Kotlin is the Java. Well, I mean, it's the JVM language. So if you can even mixing Java and Kotlin. So probably that Kotlin developers are Java developers too. So it makes sense. But if you talk about Java and Python, it's very something different. So I don't understand where these people are come from. So why and etc. So C sharp, okay. So for the .NET things, even for Golang, so probably also it's because people were using Java before, and they still use Java's Gypster because they like that. But also now they are moving to some new position, or are interesting into new technologies. So they are moving. So for example, to Golang, Scala, and etc. So maybe we don't have any rest here, but it could be also. I see a lot of people that are trying new technologies, new languages, and I think it's a good opportunity to also improve the project, even if it's not the first language, but it's still Java. But we have a lot of good reason to learn from the other projects. So have you ever made contribution to the project? And I'm glad to see that a lot of people have reported, reported an issue is the first step to contribute. So if you reported an issue, that means you understand that something went wrong, and you probably also have an idea how to fix that. So that means if you report an issue, we can also ask you or help you on fix that, and it can lead to make some contribution to the code. That is the third answer. So create content about Gypsum to blog post, talk, and etc. So 23%. So also I think that is very interesting, because even if people are not contributing directly to the project, they're also contributing to its popularity by making some content. So making some blog posts, talk, and we always need that. So, and I mean, if you feel that, yeah, but I'm not sure that people will like my blog post, let me tell you something. So I've created some content using Gypster, for example, to debug Gypster, or something like this in the past. And I did it when I was working in a place where I need to take the bus. So every time in the morning when I was in the bus, I opened my laptop and just trying to creating a blog post. So I studying, for example, in the morning, and I did the same in the evening when I went to my home, and then the same thing for 2-3 days. And after 2-3 days, 30 minutes per day, or let's say 1 hour per day, because 30 minutes in the morning and 1 in the night, and 30 minutes in the evening, leads to create blog posts. And then I share the blog post with the community through Medium or now on Dev2. And the thing is, nowadays, so it was 3 years ago, I think, and nowadays I still have something like 20, 30, even 50 views per week. So that means even if you write something and if you feel that, yeah, I'm not sure this is something that could interest people, it does. You can't know that if the only way to know that is to try and to promote your content. The more the content we have, the better it is. Even if you feel that sometimes this content has already been discussed, yeah, this topics has already been discussed through another content, yeah, that's probably true. But if you create a content, it's also a way to share the project in your own way. It's a bit different. So if you'd like to create some content, feel free to ask us also. If you want to create some content, you can contact me or you can contact us. And if you want to have a review, or to have some let's say even some ideas, or if you want to to have some help also, I'm glad to help you on that things, because this is what I do the most right now with Nintendo. So I'm creating some content, for example, on Dev2, on YouTube, like this with live session. So if you want to do that, you can join us on Discord. So I'm just highlighting the message here. So you can join us. We have a Discord channel where we are building a modular community and to talk about modularity and etc. So of course we are talking about JHipster. So we have created this community this month, and we are glad to help people on making content. So if you want, this is something that could interest you, create thought blog post. And if you want to participate to the stream, by the way, because I'm still looking for people that would like to share one moment like this, 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, even 30 minutes, even 20 minutes if you want, to talk and present something, or present something to the community. Also, it's a good opportunity. Okay, so that's all for creating content, but I would like, let me say it again. Don't be afraid to share something with people. This is the first step to improve yourself and to help people. And I learned that 2 or 3 years ago. I was thinking, yeah, people will not, don't want to read something from me or don't want to learn something from me because I'm not probably the best person to do that. But it's false. People want to learn things, and I'm pretty sure that you will find people to learn your content. So it's a very, very important things. If you have something to share, do it. It's important. Okay, I'm just trying to. Okay, if you want to join us on Discord, so you have the message on the chat. You can grab the chat here. I'll also put it here. So once again, we can help us, and we can help you. Good. So the conclusion. So it's come to learn. The conclusion is, thanks everyone for taking the time to provide this feedback. That's all. I would like to thanks everybody. I would like to thank once again Alina and all the Gypsum tech bot that takes a lot of time to define, review, and help on creating this survey. And also all the people that took time to answer all these things help us a lot. And we're happy to know that it could help the project for the future. So if you want to participate to all of these things, so for example, microcontent, GraphQL, native image, so that have been discussed before, we should know that we already have some tickets on GitHub. So if you think you can help on that, or if you want to learn more about that, feel free to grab the tickets. So for example, you can access to it here. So it's still open. Feel free to just read the ticket to understand what the people share on that, and maybe we can continue and improving that. Yeah, another thing that I didn't explain, but for people that are already that already contribute to Gypster, you should know that we have a bug bounty program. So if you want to contribute, you can add some money to the tickets if it deserves something, and then that's mean if you close the ticket, I mean if you finished, if your job, if the work you've done, when the work you've done is merge, so you can earn the money. So we try also to give the money back to the community. I mean the money we earn from the sponsors to make the project still to still improve the project. So if you have good things to, and if you feel like you can help the project, you can also, it's a good option to earn money, I mean from contributing to a very exciting project. The same for the native image with, for example, Sprig Native. This one is closed. I just want to check. Probably I know that some things have been done. So even probably that if there is something, even I think, for example, Spring Native is still something new. So if maybe if there when they will have new things, you can contribute to improve the current status of Spring Native, for example, in Gypster. Okay, good. Anyway, uh, how much? It's nearly 2 hours. We are together talking about things. To be honest, I was not sure to have to how many time I would spend talking all these things. But finally, I spent more time than I expect. So that's mean it's a very interesting topic, very exciting, and I was very very happy to spend time with you about that. So now it's time to close the stream. So basically, yeah, once again, if you want to join us on Discord, feel free to follow uh, this URL. We will be happy to spend time with you. So then next week, Soini will handle will manage the stream, and I will probably to try something also during the week. So not on Thursday, probably on Tuesday, but I'm not sure, to create a microphone using React. So I will try to do it once per week. But well, once again, it's code and chill. So when I have time to code, and code in a chilling way, I will spend it with you. It's better than doing it by myself. And yeah, the incoming topics. So we can talk about microphone using React and Vue and then compare everything. I would like to do the same, probably using GraalVM and some solutions such as Quarkus, Micronaut, and Spring Native. And also we should introduce Gypsum Lite. So if you want to learn, if you want us to talk about specific things, let us know on Twitter or on Discord. So thanks everybody. It's time to me to take some water because and I see you. Oh, let me press. Yeah. So I wish you a good day and just spend a good time with your family, your wives, your husband, and all the people you love around you. And I will do the same with my family. So I wish you a good day and see you soon on the stream, on Twitter, on Discord, or on Dev2 or everything else if you want to connect us. See you and bye-bye.